All right, welcome back to another episode of the Harold Katz podcast. Owen Glickman and Akiva Poppers, and of course, Coach. I'm on time this time for this episode. We're at the 3-game mark for the YU Max. A lot of positives and takeaways to take from the first 3 games. Coach, your overall impressions of St. Joe's and the weekend in Oneonta and pivoting to the first Skyline game tomorrow night against Mount St. Mary's. What are your initial thoughts on this team?
Well, I think they're kind of what I thought they'd be. I just thought first night, I'd say the first 3 halves of the season, we didn't really run anything. I thought St. Joe, if we gave them a run and running our stuff on both ends of the floor, then I'd say, you know what? We just got beat by a better basketball team. I'm not convinced we did. I'm not convinced. I kind of think that we let them off the hook. I think we had them, and we just decided not to run anything. It was quick shots. It was one-on-one. It was a kind of hero ball we can't afford to do. Other teams can afford to do that. We can't afford to do that. We're just not that's not what we do well. I don't think we guarded that night at all. I don't think, Effie's not there. Somebody else, Adi's not there. So I think that hurt a little bit. We didn't get great play from almost anybody. So I thought that night we just weren't very good. There was a stretch where Orr was sort of taking over the game. And just as an example, I think it was Jacob who pulled the 3, contested 3, after Orr's just scored 8 in a row. I mean, I think at some point, and this goes for any level of basketball, and you got a guy cooking, you got to let him go, man. And you got to put your ego back to the side and stop worrying about mine and start worrying about Orr's. And I think that night everybody was worried about mine. Everybody, for the most part, was worried about mine. And once you get 4 or 5 guys worried about it, then all 8 guys get worried about it, or all 10 guys get worried about it. So there has to be one guy to say, hey, we need to stop this. We need to start doing, it's kind of like, I think I brought this up before on the show. I don't remember. I think I did. We were at York. Silk had gotten in foul trouble. We didn't have bar, first round of the NCAA tournament. There's I want to say 8 minutes left or something, maybe even less, maybe 5. And we were making a run, and somebody took a quick shot. And I remember it was a TV timeout, and Donnie kind of turned around and said, what are we doing? What are we doing? And I think we needed some of that on last Wednesday. We needed somebody to say, what are we doing? This is not what we do. And then the first half on Saturday night, I thought was much of the same. Just doing our own thing, guys just jacking, over dribbling was ridiculous. It was, and I think they got lit up a little bit at halftime. We kind of knocked back, their senses were knocked back a little bit, and came out and actually looked competent, like we were going to run our stuff. And then I thought Sunday, for the most part, when the first 5 or 6 guys were on the floor, we did a hell of a job on both ends of the floor. We got other guys coming in who just either don't know or don't care to know or assume they know what we're trying to do, and they don't. And I think we pay for that. That's why I think in the second half you saw a long stretch of guys who knew what they were doing more than anything else. There wasn't, we need certain guys on the floor as much as we can have them on the floor. If you notice, there wasn't a lot of over dribbling that night, that afternoon. There wasn't, guys were throwing the extra pass. So So when we run our stuff, and this is a very, I think we were on Saturday night. I think were we 2 for 15 in the second half from three, and we scored 47 points. So when that's when you got a little something here, and if we could just kind of bottle that and do it again tomorrow night, we're going to be okay. And looking forward to the weekend,
Right.
Possibly going up there to see us live, but looking forward to the weekend. Well, I don't want to look forward to the weekend until you take care of Wednesday. But come Wednesday night, let's see if we can do it, what we know how to do, and just keep doing it and grow from there. That's what I think, especially early in the season. It's hard to believe, but they're really all sophomores, except Gav and Adi, and Adi's not been playing. They all have 3 years of eligibility together. So there's something kind of cool about that. And at the same time, we got a chance to be pretty good here, and we're just going to have to play better defensively, I think. Stop kind of mailing things in and just focus on passing up good shots for great ones.
Mm-hmm. I've spoken to several people, and I want to give you their opinions, and I want you to disprove the notion. There are a lot of people who have been making comments to me that basketball, you have 5 guys on the court, and there are only 3 capable guys on this team who can create: Max, Zevi, and Orr. Can you disprove that notion for the viewers, please?
It's nonsense. Gabe Lightfoot can't create. Simcha Halper can't create. Donnie can't create. Eton a little bit. Ofek not really. Ofek may just beat you to the goal with his athleticism or something. So the one, I would argue, whoever told you that kind of should go back into shul instead of talking during davening. It's just not it's not a basketball thing to say, to be honest with you. I don't care if it's, Stan Van Gundy. It's just not a basketball thing to say. Basketball coaches never, except in the league, which is not really basketball, it's entertainment. I'll say it again, except in the league, which is not really basketball, it's entertainment. But most coaches will never talk about that. You'll never hear them say create, because basketball is a team thing. It is not an individual thing. If your question is, can these guys score off breakdown? We can kind of all score off breakdown. That's why it's called breakdown. When our stuff breaks down. Well, look, we see what happens when our stuff breaks down. We get beat. What were we down in the first half the other night, on Saturday night? We're down 11?
At one point, I think it was 13.
Right. So, it wasn't creation that got us back in the game. It was creation. It was the guys who could create that got us minus 13. And then when we started to play for each other instead of with each other, now creating your own shot is playing with each other.
Right.
Working to get the best shot is playing for each other. And for the first 3 halves of the year, I don't think we played for each other at all. I think the last 3, we've seen what happens when we play for each other.
Mm-hmm.
We could have bad shooting nights and still get, 84, 85, 86 points a game on nights when we're not shooting the ball well. So I think the creation narrative is a narrative of those who don't know. And I don't care who told it to you, Oren. You're welcome to call them out on the show. And I don't
Not
care.
by name, but I could tell you off the record after.
Can't wait to hear. I just think, honestly, you're talking about late in the shot clock type creation. You have 3 guys on your team that could do that. You got more than most people, first of all. Second of all, if you're not running your stuff, you need that late in the clock, but you're not winning because you're not running your stuff, or you're getting a root canal every night you take the floor because you refuse to run your stuff. If you run your stuff, you don't need that. And so no, that's nonsense, Oren. That's my response. I'm sure those brilliant tacticians will come back at me with some response. But yeah, if you have 3 guys who could create their own shot, I mean, line them up, dude. That's actually kind of good. Think about all our opponents and how many they got.
Right.
3 on one team, and I'd argue there might be more, but 3 on our team is a lot. What we have to do if we're in that situation is A, make sure we don't get in that situation, and B, make sure everybody knows. Like, I don't think excess dribbling is creating your own shot. I think excess dribbling is wasting time off the shot clock. You're either dribbling for I don't know, 3 or 4 reasons. 1, change your passing angle. 2, advance the ball up the floor. 3, retreat from pressure. And that's pretty much it, because advance the ball up the floor is going to the bucket. So it's really all you need to dribble for. I know Papa's going to be a wise ass. Go, well, you got to drive to the bucket, coach. Yeah, that's advancing the ball. That's advancing the ball up the floor.
I was gonna say drive off the closeout, but
no, that is advancing the ball up the floor, man.
Yeah, but I would distinguish between the two, because one
okay,
you're
well, that's why you're a chess player, not a basketball coach. But I'm saying you can say a 4. That's why I said 3 or 4. You can add penetration as the 4th one.
Okay,
you're advancing the ball up the floor. That's what you're doing. What?
I'm messing with you, coach. I said, all right, so that's 4 then.
Well, you can mess with me all you want. I'm still saying 3. So, but so over dribbling is not creation. Over dribbling is over dribbling. Yeah. And while you're standing there bouncing the ball 40 times like James Harden, the rest of your teammates are just holding their junk, waiting for you to make a decision on where the hell you're going to go. Mm-hmm. And like we've had guys in the past who would take 12 dribbles and move 2 feet. Now, what's the point of that? And then we don't get into our offense here at 12 seconds on the clock. Well, now you better have somebody who can create if you can dribble that much. So I think we got guys, once we solve that problem, like the last 3 halves we played have been pretty good getting back to what we need to do, and actually is for the most part enjoyable to watch. Making shots are if we're getting open shots, we're getting good shots or great shots, or we're getting great shots, good shots, and we miss them, we just miss them. That's not poor execution. That's good execution without being able to finish. But there are some times where we get shots that aren't good shots or great shots because we don't execute. Sorry, Oren, go ahead.
No, so whenever there was a criticism of this team last year, I remember the coach quote, "They are freshmen." So now we're looking at them this season. They are sophomores. So looking at the first 3 games, singling out the sophomores for this part of the show,
or that's singling out 90% of the team.
Yeah, right. He's trying not to count Gob and Adian. I get it.
Yes. But were there mistakes that you noticed with these guys last year that they've been able to hone a lot better in these first 3 games of the season?
No question about it. Everybody's on the same page. That's the most important thing, and everybody looks like they're on the same page. A lot of times we're doing things out of commission instead of omission. Omission turnovers are not tolerable. Omission mistakes are not. You can't tolerate that. Commission mistakes, you can. You just blew it. Like I'll give you something to kind of look at. On days when if you look at those first 3 halves, Dotan's not involved because we're not running our stuff enough to get our best passer the basketball, and he does happen to be our best passer, and we have good ones. Max is a really good passer. Orson, they're both kind of excellent passers, and then Dotan's the best of the bunch. I mean, Jacob can pass the ball pretty good. Gob's a serviceable passer. I mean, I can say this about him because I don't care what he tells me. When he throws it to the right team, you know.
We're wearing white tonight.
Yeah, right. I had to say that about 20 times last night. We're wearing black. Yeah. But no, Gob's a good passer. But we get into this thing where we go possessions where Dotan. If we're not reversing the ball or posting it up or both, and ultimately multiple times per possession, we're not making use of one of our really strategic assets, which is Dotan. And it's not a coincidence that the last three halves Dotan's played really well and we won. So and the more he got involved, the better. So last year we there's still remnants of this because there's some guys who either were hurt or missed the preseason stuff we were doing, where we're kind of crowding the lane a little bit with our screens, or they're not finishing their cuts like they're supposed to. Like they'll start the cut. We had a situation where I think it was Dotan, where Roy was coming off like a curl. And he has to continue the cut. Might have been he has to continue the cut. And then he doesn't continue to cut. He actually pulls it off for no reason.
I think that was Roy.
It was Roy? Yeah, Roy made that cut, but I'm saying the passer was either Dotan. Yeah, and the ball goes out of bounds. So that's like the quarterback who goes back to pass and his receiver has a choice route. And the choice route is he can make an in cut or an out cut. And the quarterback throws the out and the wide receiver makes the in. So Dotan looks really bad with the pass. The problem was Roy's cut. Like Roy, if you make that cut, you're not playing second grade basketball. Dotan has to know you're going to finish your cut. Whether you get it or not, or it's not relevant. Everybody needs to know you're going to finish it. And then I think Roy has a layup, but Roy kind of pulls it back. And I just think he's getting his sea legs under him a little bit. That's what the problem with Roy is. I think he's actually not playing that poorly. He's just not ready to. He didn't have a preseason like most of the other guys because he was hurt, and then he got caught in Israel. Right. So he's kind of playing a little bit of a catch up. And when he gets right, I love Roy. When he gets right, he's going to be terrific. But I think we got other guys who don't really know what they're doing, and we kind of screen the lane line and we crowd the whole thing. We're still making that mistake, but at least there are guys, and at least in the last three halves, there are guys who are trying to screen and help their teammates get open. We also don't hold our screens like we should, and that does lead to some things that shouldn't happen, or some passes that should be more open, that we get to. But we should make it much easier on ourselves because it's a long season that hurries up on you right quick. And if you don't take care of it, the season can get out of control. But there's a definitive improvement. It doesn't have to do with Orr being on a team. That's obviously an improvement. Mm-hmm. Improvement in execution and understanding of what we're trying to do. And here's the ticket. I mean, two things. Zevi screening and Dotan being involved. When those two things happen, we become very difficult to deal with. You'll see. Don't mean to call Zevi out because I think he's doing a pretty good job. But Zevi screening, he's going to get many more. Zevi screening will help Zevi tremendously. Zevi knows what I'm talking about. Simcha Halpert knows what I'm talking about. My own kid, John Rosen, knows what I'm talking about. They all when they become great screeners is when the roof comes off for their game.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Simcha. Simcha became an outstanding screener, and his opportunities were endless because he understands the one thing about what we do that most people don't. And it's exciting to see the growth right here. I just hope we continue it. Like, it's easy to tomorrow night to just fall back into, it's our first home game or whatever.
Yeah, first home game against a Skyline opponent, and then you have NYU and Nichols, two non-conference tests on back-to-back days. So how do you balance out the depth and all that?
Well, depth just has to play. I mean, there's, look, my thing is this: your college basketball life is very short. If God willing, you live 90 to 120 years, your 4 years of playing college ball are very short. So if it was me, I try to milk every moment of those. And what some guys don't understand when they come off the bench is they don't understand that they can make the impression they make in 2 possessions and change the narrative of their game.
Correct.
They can do that. As we know, Kevin Booker did it. Tyler Ho did it.
Yeah.
Justin did it.
Yeah. Justin in those Skyline playoff games, no less.
Yeah, whether it's for Justin's career, you would say Justin was and then he had just a monster postseason, and it changed the narrative on Justin Ho. He'll be remembered as one of the all-time great performances in Yeshiva history. So, and rightly so. Phenomenal guy, phenomenal player, who, when he stayed within what he was able to do, instead of trying to do other things, was just great. And we saw that.
Yeah, because he knew his role.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, and that's what I think the ticket is. And most guys don't get that. Everybody wants to be 37 tonight. Well, you're not going to be. And you can do 2 things. You can fight that and try to be and watch everybody else play, or you can try to find, like, you can change your narrative. You can change your season. You come on the floor and make it impossible for Elliott not to play you. That's what kids don't understand. Like, I tell my players all the time, you're making it easy for me. I'm just not going to play you. Like, you have to, as I said before, you have to take a 2x4 and hit your coach across the head with it. Like, dude, how are you not playing me? How are you not playing? But it's easy. You come on the floor, you turn the ball over. Come on the floor, you foul people. You don't box out. You don't rebound. Can't make a shot. What am I playing you for exactly? So that discussion is over. So because you could be a really crappy practice player. I've had these guys before where you're a really lousy practice player, but then the lights come on and you're great. I had a kid. He was the worst practice player I've ever had. He threw that thing all over the gym. And the only reason I played him is we were pressed into a foul situation. And he changed his narrative in 2 minutes. He was like, steals on this ends, layups on the other end, made a jump shot. Like, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And where are you every other day of the week when we're practicing? And then, he ended up being a phenomenal player for my team. And he taught me about, there are lights guys who just play better when the lights are on. And there are practice guys who are your bubblegum card guys, like, they look great on their basketball card and they look like they should be awesome. And then you get them in the game and you're like, what happened to that guy? How's he not playing the way he should be playing? So, circling back to the answer to that question, all 5 guys are on the same page. We started to not watch the basketball, especially early second half on Sunday, and that's a good thing. On defensive end, you always want to see the ball. On the offensive end, we don't need you to see the ball. We're going to find you. So once we started doing that, which, by the way, takes the creation narrative off the table, because you're trying to create shots for your teammates. You're not trying to create for you. I get some crap like that, step back. But mostly all the shots in the creation narrative are contested shots.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, that's the argument they're trying to make. Well, he can get a shot off. Well, yeah, is the guy 10 feet away from him, or a foot away from him, right? So that doesn't. I'm not saying that there's not a need for a guy to make shots. We have that, and we like using it. But if you need to rely on that, you're not going to have a successful season. Period. So yes, there's things that we've already improved on immensely, and that's why I'm optimistic about what's going on, and as excited as it is to know that we have, as exciting as it is to know that we have 3 years with these guys.
Yeah. I think you've also talked about the fact that, while the season is still young, this seems like a close unit, or a unit that has the potential to grow very close throughout the season. And one example was actually today, seeing a photo of the guys down in Washington, D.C. for the rally. And it makes you think that, this season in particular is bigger than basketball.
No question about it. And I think there are things that this team's going to do that are unique to this team, and I'm excited about watching it. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I'm not looking forward to some of the nonsense that all Jewish schools, not just yeshiva, but all Jewish schools that play ball and travel on the road are going to have to deal with, because the ignorance in the world right now, in particular historical ignorance. I mean, is anybody smart enough to read the actual declaration from the state of Israel in 1948, when in there it says they hope to live side by side with the Arabs? Does that sound like somebody who's trying to run you out your house? But nobody's smart enough to do it, because of course all it would do would be get off TikTok and do some research, and the ignoramuses who and I'm saying this, and I don't mind being called out, because I'm more than willing to talk to all of them. The ignoramuses who teach these minds of mush in school, the ignoramuses who think they understand what happened, or they're useful idiots. That's what they are. They just happen to be professors with tenure, So, and they know who they are, and
I think YU basketball has always had a platform every season, but that platform has taken a giant step
sure.
for this season.
Well, it takes a giant step for this season, but I think it took a giant step a couple of years back, because if you remember, platform, when I first started coming to games, Donnie's freshman year, there was no platform. I mean, we could say we had a platform, but who's listening? Now you have a national platform, totally different. And to be honest,
and we have pop.
Yeah, in some way you have an international platform.
Yeah.
So that started with, what I think will be the ultimate recruiting class of all time, which started all of this, and I'm proud to have witnessed all of it. And Oren, there is nobody in the gym. It's the Bergs.
Only you and me during those years.
The Bergs, the Hodes, and us.
Yeah. Nachum Siegel.
Yeah, Nachum. Yeah. and so you end up, you can name the people who are in the gym. Occasional kids show up, or Rebbe shows up. But then all of a sudden you get some success, and now everybody's showing up.
Yeah.
And everybody's expert talking about breaking down kids because they can create.
That we don't appreciate.
Where were y'all when we were struggling with 10 people in the gym? So, but that's cool, because that's the evolution of a program. You know what I mean? Like, the program was in disarray. Much as people don't want to admit it, it was unsuccessful. Elliot came in and kind of the first recruiting class, not Mike and Tal. That was kind of a necessity class. But the one with Simcha and Donnie and Kev and Tyler, that's a monster class in the grand scheme of things, because it leads to Gabe, like we've talked about before, and which leads to Ryan, which leads to Eitan and Ofek, So and then leads to these guys. because there's success and there's a platform and everybody sees the platform. So yeah, there's a platform and we have to be responsible. We have to act a certain way. We have to behave a certain way. We have to speak a certain way. All eyes are on us, and at least in the Jewish community. And we are, for all intents and purposes, the only NCAA Jewish school in the world.
Yeah.
And we don't just represent religious Judaism, we represent Judaism. That's who we represent. And we take that responsibility seriously. And I think there's an added, as you say, it's more than basketball right now, kind of like the gut instinct survival, like you're not going to do to us what you think you're going to do to us. We're not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have to deal with us. And that's a Jewish people thing right now. I think I've always said this, there's a lot of non-Jews who coach Jewish teams, including one at your school.
Correct.
And I think there's preconceived notions, the Jewish kid doesn't do this, so we have to do it a different way. But what I don't think they understand, and I think this is a 40-year study of this because I've experienced a lot of it, is what I know that they don't know is that we are survivors. And when our backs are against the wall seems to be when we do our best work as a people, as you're watching now. So it hasn't always been unified work, but I always knew I could reach someplace to my players and get something that other coaches who don't understand our community don't understand about Jewish kids, in particular the ones in religious institutions, because there's something, there's a fight back thing that Jewish kids have. And, you can see it in the Jew League that y'all compete in, but I think there's just something you could push it. You see it with this basketball team. There's just a survivor instinct that coaches who understand that know how to get to it, and coaches who don't have any idea what I'm talking about will never know. But if you've coached a Jewish kid before, a volume of Jewish kids, like not just one, but I'm saying numerous Jewish kids on the same team, and you understand it, you can get something out of them that they never knew they had, or that other coaches couldn't do it, just because you understand the survival instinct of the Jew. And so you're right. I think YU is going to go through both a trying year and an exciting one.
Yeah, both can be true, for sure. Do you think with the rise of anti-Semitism on secular college campuses, every Jewish athlete should be paying attention to this team this season?
Oh, you mean every high school Jewish athlete?
Yeah.
Oh, I would most definitely do that, because like I just got something, because at school I'm the college guidance counselor. I just got something from the University of Pennsylvania, and taking a page out of Rabbi Sochel's book, I kind of responded to the admissions department and said, before I even entertain any of this, what are you doing to protect your Jewish students on campus? And if your answer is not sufficient, why do you think we would send any of our children there? And I think that has to be every college guidance counselor's response. Don't take it for granted. Oh yeah, they'll protect your kid, because they're not protecting our kids. And so it's my job to make sure, and you're not going to be invited to our school. So I respond to everybody that way whenever I get mail from them. But I just happened to get one from Penn today, and that's how I responded. But I respond that way to everybody, and Penn never responds back to me. So we're going to see if they respond back. So I think every Jewish athlete in both a religious Jew and non-religious Jew, if the word,
Doesn't matter the level of observance.
yeah, no question about it. They should all be paying attention to yeshiva, simply because you're. Look, you can't guarantee safety, but at least we know the beast, so to speak.
Right.
You know?
But it seems to me like with this team, with this season, it seems like they have a real opportunity to, recruit in a sense.
Yeah, just by being who they are,
Yeah.
doing what they do. Sure, I think that's true. I think you have that every year. Like every year you put your product out there, you're recruiting. But and that's sort of what happened with the Donnie Sim crew. That
Yeah.
they were always recruiting because of they
effectively recruited guys who never even ended up being on the team.
No doubt. No doubt. And they were, I mean, they'll go down as the greatest class in history just because they changed the program. And so, and think about this, these kids, at least the Americans, if not the Israelis, grew up kind of watching them in high school. When they were high school kids, Zevi Samet watches his YU game. He's watching Gabe, Ryan, Eitan, Stem, Donnie, Ofak, you know what I mean? Tyler. So that's who they're growing up with.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, I want to be a part of that. And so I think there are kids in middle school and high school now who are going to watch this team for a couple more years, God willing, and kind of recruit. We're going to recruit just by playing the way we play and doing it the right way and behaving the right way and being successful as I think we can be. But again, we have to, the me has to be sacrificed for the we. And if we can do that, we're going to be really good.
I think I've hogged the mic a little bit too much. So I'm going to open the floor for Pop to ask any questions that are on his mind for Coach. Take it away.
Oh my
God. Oh boy, might as well end it now, right?
Hey, Oren, to quote a great basketball coach, what in the world did I do to deserve this? Go ahead.
Quoting yourself. Very good. I'm curious, Coach, your thoughts on, obviously who knows what's going to happen, but Mount St. Mary has played zone since I've watched them.
Yeah.
Like ever. So, and we haven't faced a zone yet this season. I'm curious to get your thoughts on, because obviously against the zone, you still want to run offense, but you're doing it a little differently just because of, naturally, the way you're being defended is a little different. Curious to hear your thoughts on, if you think early in the year that could be beneficial or negative or neutral in terms of just growing and improving.
I never think seeing various defenses early in the year is a detriment. It's always beneficial. Like I try to get it. Like in our two games, we've seen a 1-3-1 half court trap. We've seen a 3-2. We've seen a 1-3-1 and a half court. We've seen a man-to-man. So we've seen a 2-3. So we've already been out. We haven't won, but we've already been exposed to all these things that we don't do, which we wouldn't simulate as well in practice. So it's always great. Now, to be honest, they almost never played zone till recently because they were playing the pack line, and I guess with this personalities going zone, the same rules the same ideas and not rules, but we want to play the same way against the zone too. Pete, I'm not going to give up anything right now, but we still want to play the same way. And if we play hero ball, we're going to struggle. And if we play the way we were meant to play and the way we're supposed to play, we should be okay. It's probably not one of their stronger teams, but which his teams have given us problems in the past.
Yeah, last season we played them on a Saturday night, and while we won, it wasn't our strongest performance.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing that we'll learn about this team right quick. The last couple of years, and I say couple of years, we've kind of struggled for no reason. And most of the time, it's just impatience on both ends of the floor. If we just stay patient on both ends of the floor, we should be okay, you know, and kind of not have the same, like I remember 2 years ago, we had these, they weren't debilitating games, but they were, you know, like, why the hell are we struggling in like kind of games? And that's just focus. It, to me, it's even with that team, it's immaturity. Because that, let's just take that team in 2019. Outside of one or two games, I can think of Sarah Lawrence's one,
The Mount St. Mary game.
Mount St. Mary as another. We
Yep.
didn't really struggle, but by the way, both those teams were pretty good. Well, in particular, Sarah Lawrence.
Yeah, Sarah Lawrence was
Yeah.
with
So
the playoff team that year.
so like you know, and obviously the Farmingdale playoff game, but when we had you, we kind of busted on you because we could score all the time. We could score a lot. We had a lot of guys who could score, most of whom couldn't create on their own. Just throwing that out there, or but what we did was defend, and you know, we didn't do that a couple of years ago. We weren't any good at it. We had pockets where we were good at it, but kind of playing even and wait until the cavalry arrives is not the way to go. And then last year, I just think not everybody was on the same page, and you had a lot of young guys who were learning, and there really wasn't great leadership. As a matter of fact, it was not good leadership at all. I'll catch some heat for that, but I don't really care. It's a fact. And now everybody's on the same page, and there's really good leadership, and I think that shows in how they're playing. Even when they didn't play well, there's still a unit that's tight and wants to play together, and I believe wants to play for each other. So everybody thinks you beat his own a particular way. There's a lot of ways to skin that cat, and if we're patient, we'll get what we need to get, and you know, we should be okay. My opinion. I hope I'm right.
Interesting. Mount St. Mary's actually they actually played in a scrimmage against D1 Fairfield in their last game out.
Bye game. Yeah, bye game.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
They lost by
47, I think.
Yeah.
Well, final scores in those games don't really mean much.
Right.
You know,
I just always find it interesting when I see the Skyline teams.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you have that box, that 47, was that like 25 at halftime, or was it 12?
I have the box score right here. Hang on one second.
Was it 12 or 25?
The halftime deficit was 1 second. Slow internet.
Wow, this dial-up thing is not a great idea.
They were down by 19 at the half.
Okay, so they're down 20. So that you know, the second half sort of was the same as the first.
Right, and maybe I mean,
and I'm guessing that if you go to the 10-minute mark, it's probably, you know, up to 40 at that point in the second half.
Right, and that's when you're going with reserves. By then,
Yeah.
Your starters tire out.
Trying to get guys time,
Yeah.
So I mean, it could be, honestly, even in that situation, it could be that Mount St. Mary played pretty well. I never saw it. You know, there are other factors that go into games like that. You know, so it could be that they played pretty well, but you know, those games, you know, you're trying to raise a little money for your program,
right?
So you get some guarantee from those teams, and it gives your kids a chance to play in a bigger arena and stuff like that.
Do you envision us ever playing a scrimmage or a game against a D1 opponent, or is that something that's not really in our plans?
We've tried to. Just most D1s don't want to play us.
Right.
So, because it was hard to get D3s to play us. Like,
Right.
it was hard to get. I mean, Williams was the first.
Like in Illinois Wesleyan, for
Yeah,
example.
Williams was the first and pretty much only team up in that upper echelon, top 10
Yeah.
echelon, that really embraced playing us.
Right.
And once we showed that we can compete on that level, then all of a sudden, we became a game. One, our SOS is not going to be great because of our league. But but people overlook that because they viewed it as an NCAA tournament game. And that's why you do it. You play a team like Yeshiva if you were, Williams, because you want an NCAA tournament caliber team. And for years, that's what we gave them. And so then other people will call you. When you go 29-1 and you're in the top 10, everybody wants to be the top 10. You know what I'm saying? So when you're number one, everybody wants to play number one. So then you can trade off games. We'll play at your place twice, and you come to us once. That kind of thing. And then you will get those better teams, i.e., NYU, Nichols. I think
Right.
once we beat NYU, what year was that?
2018.
Is that what it was?
Maybe.
We
Can
couldn't
we get a fact check, Pop?
We couldn't get them. We couldn't get them.
What I do know is that St. Joseph, Connecticut just beat Nichols tonight.
So they're 3-0. Wow.
So they're 3-0 with a win over Yeshiva, a win over Middlebury. It was a good team.
Is that grounds to rank them after Thanksgiving, Pop?
We'll have to see with the results. I've watched enough at this point that I'm not sure they're a top 25 team, but they're such a big group of teams which are they could be anywhere from 10 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely fall in that group for me. And so it's going to be based on results with them. Like if they keep winning, then I'm going to obviously rank them. I mean, they haven't lost a game. This is Coach, you like this stat. I don't know if you ever heard of something like this before. They haven't lost a game before the month of February in a year since 2019-20. They've won every single game they've played November, December, January since 2019-20.
Pretty good basketball coach.
Pretty good coach.
Because he has different group of kids now.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a couple of the guys back who were key players last year. But
I get it.
It's very impressive what he's done.
Really incorporating other guys.
Yeah.
So he's a good basketball coach. So they're I don't for him preseason is a lot because he's I believe the best team in his league or one of the 2 or 3 best teams in his league. So preseason, what he's doing now is important. But see, it was easier for them to get those kind of games because it was Coach Calhoun. You know what I mean? So
Right.
He came with juice. We had to kind of work from behind the 8 ball of like, who is Elliott Simons?
Right.
You know what I mean? So once you get there, you have to have some form of sustained consistency a little bit to kind of retain these teams that want to play you.
We beat NYU back in 2016. The starting 5 was Mikey Berg, Simcha Halpert, Dean Pienica, Jordan Hood, and Judah Cohen.
I remember.
That's before they were any good.
Donnie got on the bench. Donnie got on the court with 2 minutes left.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah.
Was that second game of the year or something?
It was, close. It was it was the 5th game.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but the game prior was against the College of Staten Island, and they lost by 26. And I feel like the College of Staten Island is probably a weak team these days.
What's funny about it is that game was not as close as the score indicates.
The College of Staten Island game.
Yeah, it was drubbing. It was only 26 because
it was only 13 at the half.
Yeah, but they drubbed us. Like it was over right quick. I would probably say by the 12-minute mark we were down close to 30.
Yeah.
and they had a guard who was really good. We couldn't guard, and we just got smoked a little bit. But I think that's the last time we played NYU, right? When we beat them.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then
besides for last year, yeah.
Until last year, right?
Right.
This is a new coach. Old coach.
Right. Whole different program now. Yeah.
Coach no longer wanted to play us.
Yeah.
But
I feel like it doesn't matter the strength of the squad, because of their name. It's still like.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. But as Coach Trevino said after we won that year in 2016, he said there's really not a day on the face of this planet where the words NYU loses to Yeshiva should ever happen. You know what I mean? And that's when I told Coach, they're trying to build something over there. You're like, yeah, it's NYU. Well, it's the same thing. NYU's now pretty good. So we're not bringing in the scrub group on Saturday night. We're bringing in
top 10 preseason bowl team.
Yeah, but
led by the best Jewish player in the nation. Although I know, Coach, you have your differences on this.
Definitely have my differences on that, but because you're. I mean, I'll leave that for your. Dave
yeah, we can talk about that after the end.
We can talk about it after the broadcast because he's on the call.
Yeah, no. All I'm gonna say is Pop's got some esoteric reasons. That's all. Kabbalistic reasons why he's the best Jewish
player.
Right. Not based in basketball intelligence, just based in Kabbalistic.
Yep, I'm a big Kabbalist.
Was that your only question, Pop, or did you have more?
Oh, no, I had something else. But I don't remember. I'll remember it. Yeah. Or you have something else while I'm remembering?
Well, I'm looking at NYU's results so far this season. Beat Manhattanville by 17, beat Hopkins by 4.
Yep. Yeah, and they got beat on a buzzer beater by Swarthmore.
Yeah.
They stopped running offense with 5 minutes left in the game.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, who they play this weekend?
Who?
This week.
Besides us?
On the weekend. Do they play during the week?
No.
So they're off. We get a Strathmore game?
Yeah, they go to California after they play us on Saturday night.
Lucky us. We get them after a Strathmore game. So, I mean, it's all about competing, and I don't think we gave them anything near what we were capable of a year ago. That I mean, we'd have beat them, but we sure wouldn't have lost by 5 million like we did.
Yeah, I think you even mentioned at one point that was our worst loss until the Immaculata game.
Right, I think that's true.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
Certainly in terms of final score, that was the worst loss.
I remember you texting us at one point like, I'm having a hard time finishing this game.
Yeah, like everybody stopped competing.
It was 47-16 at halftime, and then
it got worse from there.
It got worse.
You got to compete. We didn't compete, and that's what I meant by leadership. We didn't have. Your leadership has to be your leadership, winning and losing. It can't just be leadership when we're winning and then finger pointing when we're losing. It just can't. And I just don't think we've being a leader is hard. It's a hard thing to do, and most guys can't do it. And you got to keep your locker rooms together. And in order to do that, you all got to be on the same page, and you got to be honest with each other. And you got to tell the truth to each other. And nobody can protect each other's egos. You got to be honest and get it out. And say I love you, brother, when it's over. But you got to be honest. You can't split rooms. Like I'm not getting this time or I'm not getting that time. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that.
This is going to be a real test of conditioning this upcoming stretch. No.
What comes after?
Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday.
Yeah, who's Tuesday?
Mount St. Vincent.
On the road.
Yeah, it's 3 games
and
then Amherst non-conference.
It's a pretty small trip relative to what we've made up until this point, but it's still on the road.
Yeah, but I mean, a familiar opponent.
Sure.
And we've had a lot of success playing in.
Although I think interesting at least to note, most of that success has come in the second half of games for some reason.
True.
The last year, the game at their place was 6 at the half. Remember the conference semifinals a couple of years ago was tied at like 8 to go in the first half.
Right. So, Pop, what I'm telling you is that the last few teams lack leadership.
What does that have to do with Mount St. Vincent?
Because everything is Mount St. Vincent.
There's leadership in this squad. We have good leaders in Gov and Adi is what coaches.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. I'm saying, what does that have to do with performing well in the first half? Because up until this point, we haven't performed well in the first halves.
Right.
You mean this year or at Mount?
This year and against.
There are some places that you're just going to struggle to play. And
well, also it's a matter of growth, you know.
But look, here's where leadership. I'm telling you the answer. Here's where leadership comes in. You shut your mouth, you'll finally hear an answer. You're like a BBC interviewer, Pop. So the answer to that question is, in order to kind of even keel yourself, you need leadership. You need guys to, like I said, be honest with each other, you know, and it shouldn't be a situation where there's 8 minutes to go in a game and the game's a 2-point game. If they're not evenly matched teams, if they are, then go get them, you know, but leadership sets the tone for your locker room. And when things get hairy, you know, it's your leadership, your maturity of your team, it spills down. You understand? And if you can keep your head about you when all those around you have lost theirs, that's sort of what leadership is. So those games, Pop, can turn on a dime. They kind of, there by the grace of God go I kind of thing, you know, like some gyms are harder for us to play in Mount St. Mary's, but I believe like Donnie's senior year, if I'm not mistaken, we're only up like
we were up 1 with like 5 minutes left.
Donnie hit the 3 in the end one.
We won the game by 20, I think.
Yeah, like at some point we just kind of drilled them. So, but again, there are a lot of factors in there: foul trouble and who's sitting for what stretches, and but your leadership's going to keep you together. And finger pointing leadership, that game, that 6 struggles with 2 minutes to go in the game. That game that's 8 kind of grows to 12, kind of grows to 15, because you can get stops and no one's pointing fingers at each other because you have 11 turnovers at halftime. You understand? Like, it's all about being on the same page. It's always going to be about that. And if you can, and then obviously your leadership's going to get you running our stuff on both ends of the floor. If you're not doing that, and that's a lack of leadership. You follow what I'm saying? There are some places like Mount St. Mary's where the math teacher is referee. Like, you're just going to struggle there. That's what, you don't want me to say that out loud?
You can say whatever you want. It's your show.
So like, you know, I mean, you say whatever, you know, they could make whatever claim they want, but I remember a couple of years back, check the film, they had a kid named Francis or something who was the leading scorer, right, in the league or something like that, one of them. In the first play of the game, he comes down the floor, Donnie takes a charge on him. And they go to bench and call a foul on his number. And the other referee comes in and changes it to Paul Seneke, number 1. I'll never forget it. Seneke is sitting in the corner on the other side of the floor. And Francis, who ended up with 4 fouls and not this one, is the only guy running Donnie over on this play. It's isolated on the right side. There's not really a lot. You can look it up. And they changed the call, and I'm like, that's just math teachers doing their work. You know what I mean? Like, that just can't happen. There's 3 referees. How do you all screw that up? I make the call, okay? I go to bench and I call the foul on the kid. Somebody else comes in and changes the call. I'll be like, dude, how do I get in on that? I don't think we lost that night, but we needed to get bailed out late by Ryan, I think. I'm trying to remember. But I think that year, I think it was that year. Was it the year before? Whatever. It happened. And when that happens, you just kind of go. And like the one year we were up 9. Mike had a bad back, so he didn't play. And Justin had foot problems. Tyler had plantar fasciitis or whatever that's called. So we were basically playing with 6 guys, and we were up 69-60, and then never got another call the rest of the night. There's something about playing up there. Sim got teed up. Something about playing up there, So that's one joint, and then Mount St. Mary's Mount St. Vincent's the other one. Although, didn't we drill them a couple years back? Like first half, second half.
Yeah.
Like we were up,
at their place.
yeah, we were up big, maybe 25 at halftime, and then just drilled them. But they made like a little bit of a run, cut it to 11 or something. And then I'm trying to remember. It's not that important, but that's the whole thing is going to be about leadership. What we do on each end of the floor. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you have poor leadership, you struggle most of the night against everybody. When you have good leadership, you kind of hang together, and everybody talks in the positive. And then you eventually kind of get your stuff together and win the game. Those things hold true in every sport. Even if you have guys who can create.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow night, Skyline opener against Mount St. Mary. Saturday night, Sunday, back-to-back against NYU and Nichols. Coach, any final thoughts?
Well,
Oren, I gotta ask the question that I forgot about.
Oh, go for it.
I want to know about Coach, how you view balancing conference versus in-conference games here, in terms of
how do I
playing.
view conference and in-conference?
YU is in a very weird situation. Most teams aren't like this, where we're starting conference play. We must be starting conference play earlier than any team in the country.
Always do.
I actually checked that, and it was only a day later last season.
Right. So
St. Joe's Brooklyn, yeah.
That naturally makes it such that we're playing conference games and non-conference games mixed together, whereas most teams,
right. I think
they'll
I
go
got
90%
like that with the depth.
Yeah, they'll go 90 or 100% of their. So how are you like in terms of having a longer leash, let's say for guys who are more playing for a spot in the rotation, versus hey, let's just make sure we win this game, but also trying to not wear out your legs early in the year.
No, I don't know about wearing out your legs early in the year. You're a basketball player, be in shape. There is something to playing back to backs and stuff like that, but you're going to have to do that in the NCAA tournament or in the playoffs, and or any tournament.
Yeah, I mean it's a little different in the tournament though, because there it's
But I got to be honest with you,
night, whereas here it's night.
I know, I get it, but I got to be honest with you. Yeah, the quick turnaround's a problem, but I got to be honest with you. We've had days where we play at 8 and practice at 6, so we're used to that. Now we've had teams that did that a lot, by the way.
Sure, but usually those 6 a.m.s are not contact, right?
Well, yes and no, depends. Depends if you're playing Tuesday, when practice Wednesday, play Thursday, which we used to do. So sometimes he'd give them off, and sometimes he wouldn't, and then you're up at 6, and you have a day and a half to get your body back together. I think the idea would be to get better every night. That's the way you approach it. Is there special emphasis? Yeah, you got to win your conference games, most important. But you also like when NYU comes in and Nichols comes in, you kind of get to see how you stack up. You already know you stack up with St. Joe. So if you run your stuff, you're top 50 in the country, if not better. If you don't run your stuff, you get beat like we did. You know what I mean? And same thing will happen here with NYU, and NYU is going to come in thinking like, all right, we're just going to kind of throw these guys, and
and maybe we'll win by 20 this year instead of 40.
Or maybe you catch them on a day where they're kind of feeling their oats like we used to do a couple of years back. But I mean, you just try to get better every day, Pop. It's not like, well, it's non-conference, so it doesn't matter. In our situation, because of like the pool C's aren't going to happen for us. So unless, of course, you go 28-2 or something like that.
Right.
So, I mean, look, your pool C helps if you beat NYU and Nichols.
Right, and not just pool C,
But I'm not a fan.
It's not something we should be paying attention to.
But also there's obviously
I'm
the
not
idea
a fan. I'm not a fan of even talking about that.
Yeah.
That's not really, if that's what you're after, don't play here.
Yeah, and also like in the tournament, obviously you want to get a 2 or a 3, not a 4 in a pot. But at the end of the day, you gotta beat the teams anyway.
All that stuff is nonsense.
Right, you gotta beat the teams anyway. So
it's November, December, January. If you're playing for
Yeah.
February to get some kind of invite to the NCAA tournament, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And your mind has to be set on winning your league. Are you good enough to win your league? And that's the only thing that should be going through everybody's mind. And so in your non-conference games, if you're a competitor, you want to compete. A lot of guys want easy stuff, like, you know, I'm just saying, my team is essentially 9th and 10th graders, and we're playing a varsity schedule. We probably be pretty good in the JV Yeshiva League. Well, that is when we don't throw the thing all over the gym.
right, that's the problem, right?
But we got to find out who we want to be and what it's going to take to get there, and we have to mature right quick. So that's what kind of one of the reasons why we're doing it. And you find out how mentally tough your kids are. You know, we're finding out. So it's the same thing with these non-conference. You know, it takes some mental toughness to play good teams every night. You know what I mean? So, yeah, strap up.
Look, strap up indeed.
Yeah, Pop 1-0 is all you're concerned about right now. 3-1.
1-0 for one.
3-1's irrelevant. Means nothing. 1-0 tomorrow night.
Yep.
Then you can worry about 2-2 or 3-1, whatever, coming into Saturday. But 1-0 is all you care about. And it has to be that way. And then let's wait till Saturday, Sunday, and get better. And that's, I think, the approach you have to take.
Yeah. All right. Well, good way to close. Our next episode will hopefully be next Monday. I know Pop is working on the guest arrangements, but nothing definitive, so we'll keep you guys posted. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Harold Katz podcast. Hope everyone has an enjoyable rest of their night. And
wait, before you sign off, do I get a last word here?
Yeah, go for it, Coach.
What the hell are you doing with a Marxism book behind you? Just saying, what kind of socialist we got here, Pop? You should have told me about him. Now you can close.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, we don't officially announce until it's baked into the cake. So sorry to jump the gun there, Coach. But yeah, thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate Coach for his time, of course, and we will be back hopefully with another pre-Thanksgiving episode of the Harold Katz podcast. Good night, everyone.
Guys.